Welcome to the Wilson Wealth Show, a thought provoking show about building wealth in the new economy. Each week, members of the Wilson Wealth team and their guests will discuss how to navigate the world of personal finance, stocks, real estate, and entrepreneurship to help you build wealth in the new economy. And now, here is your host, Ciera.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Wilson Wealth Show. My name is Ciera, and today I have Maurice and Ablavi with me. How you guys doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Always good to hear. And you, Maurice?
I am awesome. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. Love to hear it. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Today's topic is, should you invest in your spouse? Now, today's topic is more geared towards women. This is because in recent years, women have been making more than men and are often the breadwinners in their marriages. Therefore, they have a lot more to lose if an investment goes south, especially if children are involved. Now, I say this because it's still commonplace for children to stay with and ultimately be supported by their mothers. With that being said, 9 times out of 10, women have a lot more to lose if their credit gets ruined or if they lose their savings to a bad investment. So investing in your spouse can mean a few things. For example, if your partner wanted to go back to school, perhaps you support them through it, pay off their loans, stuff like that. Or the one that we see most often, your spouse wants to start a business and they need you to invest it to get it off the ground, right? So these examples are pretty common occurrences. And as a partner who makes more, it's important to protect yourself, even if it's your own spouse who needs the financial support. So let's start with the obvious question, guys. Should you invest in your spouse's startup or business as the breadwinner? Why or why not?
Well, I would say that, and before I go into this, let me just say this. Anybody who really knows me knows that I love, right? And love has its place. However, a marriage is not only, I would think, two people in love if you're in North America. It's also the merger of, it's like a business, right? So I think it's really important that you look at it objectively, first and foremost. I think it's also important that you feel confident that your spouse is passionate about the venture, because it's inevitable that challenges will come. And I feel like it's the passion and the will to succeed that will get you over that hump. So if you have a spouse who all of a sudden wants to have a food truck and doesn't even cook, and they're supposed to be operating the food truck, you got to question that, right? So you really have to be able to evaluate that. And then I think it's important for them to write out some type of a plan. It would be great if it was a business plan, that was detailed oriented and all that stuff. But at minimum, there needs to be something on paper, because paper allows for accountability. You can always go back to that and say, hey, this was the plan. You have X amount of dollars. Now you're deviating. That's not part of the plan. So I feel like something has to be written down.
Okay. I mean, that's a good point, too. I like that, the idea of a business plan. So how should you approach a business plan with your spouse? Like, say they write it all up, they have their idea, they're ready to go, they hand you the plan. What's a good way to approach that?
Well, I think even before you get to the plan, there needs to be some buy-in, or just a leveling of understanding about what you're about to embark on. It's the investor spouse in this scenario needs to understand that you're now going from a team that was focused on marriage, maybe raising kids, to now a couple that's trying to launch a business. And that spouse that you're investing in needs room to be a business owner. And so other roles are going to suffer. And that's a negative connotation, but that's exactly what's going to happen if you're going to have the best chance of that business surviving. So I think embedded in that business plan is some type of understanding that, hey, for this to pay off, I need to be allowed to be working this business 16 hours a day for X amount of years to make sure that we can make that happen. So not only does that spouse that's investing in the business put money in, but they're probably going to have to put in some extra sweat equity and time when it comes to handling some of the household duties. So when approaching that business plan, it's not about just the money, but also the emotional investment, the time investment, the sharing of duties, and really offloading of duties for the spouse who's going to go in business.
Right. I mean, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Like, if you have children involved, then the other person who's not starting the business is going to have to take the brunt of that. And that's not something I even really thought about. Not something I'm sure a lot of people don't consider when their partner's getting into a business. It's more than just money. It's time and it's sacrifice.
Definitely.
Yeah.
On the point of time, I think Maurice makes a great point with that. I think you also need to look at where you are in your life. It's different when you're 25 as opposed to 65. So, and everything in between, at different times in your life, you're at different places. So that also needs to be something that's seriously considered as well. And it's not to say that if you are over 50, this isn't something you should do. There have been tons of success stories for people over 50, but there may be more if you're 25. I'm not sure. So that's something you need to take into account and feel comfortable with.
That's true. I mean, you're completely right. Absolutely.
Definitely.
So, all right. So let's just say the worst happens. How do you protect yourself from financial ruin if your spouse's business ultimately just fails? What do you guys think?
Well, I think a woman needs to protect their credit from the business. So I'm assuming that, the female is, or the wife is the investor. You need to protect your credit from the business so the family can continue to get attractive terms for big ticket purchases. It's not uncommon for employers to run credit checks when they're looking at hiring someone. So the investor in this relationship needs to make sure that credit stays pristine, so that they can basically bail the family out in things such as student loans, car purchases, home purchases, and things that they need. So you've got to basically keep that credit separate. So that just means never using their social, never co-signing. Money can be invested with an agreement, but you don't have to lend your credit to any of the purchases that the business makes, or at least you shouldn't lend your credit.
Right. I mean, that's true. Yeah. Because we are speaking in terms of, like, as a woman making more in the relationship, you're investing in your husband or spouse, and women do still take on, like, the brunt of, like, taking care of the children. I mean, that's very common, especially financial support. If something were to happen in the marriage, in the business, you need to make sure as a woman, your credit is good so that your kids are good, But yeah, absolutely. But okay, so let's run it back to when I mentioned supporting your partner through school. Do you guys think it's a good idea to take on the brunt of your spouse's student loans if you make more money? What do you guys think?
So I think that, I'm sorry, Maurice, go ahead.
No, it was just we edited it.
Okay, fair enough. I think that in everything that we're saying, whether it's student loans or it's a business, I think it's not a one size fits all, right? I think you have to evaluate your partner, look at your specific situation, and then go from there. So I feel like if you deem it to be a good investment, great. I would advise against it if you can help it. However, if you deem it to be a good investment, then you have to look at it like, life is uncertain, right? So it could be a situation of this person gets their degree and you may not still be with that person. You have to look at all the cons and be okay with that. And if you're okay with it, then by all means, great. However, again, I would reiterate, I would highly recommend that the person who is getting their degree be the individual who takes on the student loan debt, because I don't think it'd be fun if you weren't with that person and you're now being held accountable for their debt. I haven't been in a situation. I'm just saying.
And I've known people in that situation before, and it's very hard to get out of. I will say that. So maybe like a good compromise would be to have everything, the person who's getting the degree, to have everything in their name, but you can help out with the payment. I think that's perfectly fine, because there's no, it's not in writing that this is your debt. This is still their debt, but you're going to help them out because they're your spouse and you love them and you want them to succeed at life. But also, if something were to happen to your marriage, of course we don't want that, but if something were to happen, then you don't have an overhanging debt that's not even yours on your head that can last God knows how long with how much college, costs,
Exactly.
Definitely. I mean, this gets into basically a basic, just general good guideline. It's just don't do anything with your spouse financially that you can't really unwind pretty easily. Not in terms of just thinking you're going to break for the exits, but just things like co-signing, basically taking over loans, going into partnership officially. You want to be able to unwind things pretty quickly so that you can walk away clean and have a chance at a new life. As a financial advisor, I've seen the opposite, and it's not pretty, and it's sort of like going through a divorce perpetually, because you're still dragging these financial conditions from the marriage. The person is gone, but the conditions that caused the divorce are still present with you. And sometimes they even survive that spouse's or ex-spouse's passing. And so all of that's because you can't quickly unwind what you've done with this person. So that's just a good rule of thumb to keep in mind. Don't get stuck in something you can't unwind really quickly with your spouse.
Yeah, I agree completely. And you know what? We're just going to go ahead and talk about what are some ways to protect your credit score and finances in a marriage when it's too late for a prenup, because not everybody thinks of the prenup. I personally believe in the prenup. I think it's a great idea. Not everybody feels the same way, so what are some ways to protect yourself when the prenup is no longer an option?
Well, I think maybe not the first thing, but one of the things you can think about is a post-nup. A lot harder to get a post-nup than it is a prenup, so you can try that. And then also I think that you can just keep your finances separate. And when it comes to bills, perhaps designate, this person pays these set of bills and the other person pays another set of bills, or have a joint account just for bills, and then have separate accounts. Have different accounts designated for different things. If it's maybe a family vacation, there can be a separate account for that both of you guys are contributing to. And then protect your credit. One person can maybe qualify for a home, for instance, whereas another person ends up doing the car. So where you kind of alternate if you can.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, you know what? That kind of leads into what my next question was going to be for you guys, which is it better to have separate bank accounts in a marriage or a combined bank account? What do you guys think?
My general advice for a long time has been there are 3 accounts in a marriage: his, hers, and ours. And so it's not unheard of for a spouse, I won't even say which gender, when things break badly, for a spouse to come and empty a joint account and leave someone hanging. And while you will be able to file legal action against that spouse, in the interim, you got bills to pay, and usually there are kids to provide for. So I highly recommend that you have an account that's designated for paying bills. And then savings and things of that nature have to be separate. And people would think, well, that's runs counterintuitive to what marriage is about. But all of your retirement accounts in a marriage are individual already. The IRA, the I is individual. There's no joint IRA account. Most Americans have their retirement accounts in an IRA account or a 401k style investment. 401ks also aren't joint accounts. They're designated to you and listed based on your social security number. So you already have your biggest assets separated. There's no reason to combine short-term savings that can keep you afloat in case there's an adverse situation. So his, hers, and ours is what I recommend.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about that. All right. That's great. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining me today. I appreciate it. And I just wanted to say real quick, we're not trying to be Debbie Downers here. Like, I know all of this advice seems very like, like you-centered and not, marriage, which is supposed to be together. But all of these things that we talk about aren't unheard of. It does happen, and we're just trying to protect you. That's all. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys coming in today. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
All right, see you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Wilson Wealth Show, a thought-provoking show about building wealth in the new economy. Each week, members of the Wilson Wealth team and their guests will discuss how to navigate the world of stocks, real estate, and entrepreneurship to help you build wealth in the new economy. Please join us next time on the Wilson Wealth Show.